Hello and welcome to Ferguson Studios in downtown Santa Barbara. This is Real Talk Live with Ben Ferguson. I'm Ben Ferguson, and I assure you today will be an incredible show for you. I mentioned last show that every show will be better than the next one, and that will, I promise you that will be true. And that doesn't mean skip this one away for the next one, but that just means I've planned this one out, and you're going to like it. We have a very special guest that came all the way from Goleta, California. That's a nice little drive. And we're going to talk about paranormal experiences that I've had and that she has had and a lot of us have had. And that interests me. It piques my interest. I want to introduce John Cautadella. He's working the desk today, and he's going to make sure everything runs smoothly. And I'd like to introduce our guest. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Brianna Basulto.
Brianna Basuto. So yesterday I put an ad out in Craigslist and I said, does anybody out there have any paranormal experiences? And she answered me and called me, and we spoke a little bit on the phone last night, and she passed the Ferguson lie detector. So we asked if she could come in this morning, and she did, and we really appreciate that. So I'm excited about that. This is the stuff that really gets me going. So when I was probably about 40 years old, that's a time in my life when I realized that I knew everything, and I was pounding my chest, and I was just the smartest guy in the world. And at that point, somebody came up to me and they said, you don't know what you don't know. And I almost fell off my chair. I mean, that really made sense to me. And that's when I realized that I really didn't know anything. And that's when I started meditating. And that's when I started thinking outside the box and realizing that there's so much more out there. I started thinking like, they say dogs only see in black and white. But if you ask a dog, he thinks everything's normal. He thinks everything's in black and white. You look at a frog in a pond, and all he knows is there's fish over here and there's a rock over here, and that's the way it's supposed to be. And they don't know about Las Vegas or Tokyo or anything like that. They think that's what's supposed to be. Where I'm getting at is we see what we're supposed to see and nothing else. And so there's got to be stuff. There's got to be a lot more, and it's got to be happening right in front of us. And I think once you get out of your own way, then you start experiencing things like that. And I'm going to mention just a couple of things that happened to me when I was a kid. One time, I was a senior in high school. I was in bed. I was going to sleep, and something told me to go upstairs and go to my old room. My brother had come back from the army, and he was staying with us, and he was up in the old room. And I kind of dismissed it because I wanted to go to sleep. Seattle, it's cold. I don't want to get out of bed. And it said, go up to your old room right now. So I went upstairs, went up the stairs, went over, opened the door, and there was a stereo speaker with a candle that had burned down all the way down. And it was like literally 2 minutes away from just starting a fire. And nobody was in the back of the house, so the whole house would have burned down. So somebody came and told me to go up there and blow that candle out, or the whole fire, or the whole house would have gone down. So as soon as that happened, I realized that, gee, is it real? It's very real. And then I start hearing other people with similar stories, and it's really, really intriguing. I mean, have you had any situations like that where you've had? I think if we're quiet enough and I don't know, stop our own thinking, we can maybe.
Yeah, for sure, man. I had one where I was driving to work one day and just kind of started feeling a little goofy, and I passed out right on the 101 going north at like 65 miles an hour, right? Just made it to the shoulder. Actually, I wasn't at 65 miles an hour, but I had made it to the shoulder just enough to pass out and not get the car in park.
So did somebody come over you? Was it
and all of a sudden I hear my voice saying, I'll edit it, but get up, get the F up, get up or you're gonna die. And that's when I popped out of it.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So when I think about dreaming and stuff, I think people just say, "Oh, dreams they're nothing. Dismiss them. They're not nothing. I don't know what they are." But like I mentioned, I had one the other day that was very odd. But I think there's a lot more that we don't know. That's very exciting. And I wrote a local show called Pine Valley Medical, and I wrote a scene where there was a lady that had she was upset because she had a friend when she was a small child, and everybody thought it was what am I trying to say? It was not a real friend, just a playmate, an imaginary friend, and she saw the person. And anyway, when I was talking to you yesterday, you mentioned the exact same story.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So growing up, pretty much, I'd have this. Well, I felt like it was a friend. It was invisible to everyone else. I didn't necessarily see it, but I would like play with it as if it was like my own friend. I was telling him about one time I was at my with my mom at our old apartment. We used to live with my aunt. That apartment in Santa Barbara was very haunted. Lights would go on and off. The TV would turn on and off. There would just be something that I feel there.
Did you ever see an object move or a door close or a feeling of a cold draft? That's what I've heard.
A feeling. One time I was watching TV. It was just me and my mom, and I remember there was the bathroom down this little hall, and she told me, "Oh, did you leave the faucet on?" I was like, "No." Like I was still sitting there watching TV. She was like, "Oh, turn it off." And I was like, "Okay," but I really didn't want to go in the bathroom because I felt like, you know, the feeling that someone's just watching you,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just like that, and it felt like so dark, and I was like, "Okay, I'll go." I run over there, turn it off, and I come back, and I was just really scared. I was like maybe 3 or something, 3 or 4. But I remember that, like.
So that feeling was inside, right? So that feeling's real. That feeling inside that we all dismiss sometimes, that's real. So if somebody's making you feel uncomfortable in any kind of way, just walk away from it because you're correct. Don't second guess yourself. So has that feeling followed you to your new place where you're living?
Not necessarily. Well, it has followed me throughout the years. I'm 21 now, so I feel like it's always kind of been there. Lingering.
You feel like maybe it's a person, a friend from a different life?
Maybe, because since we all kind of, me, my mom, my aunts, like my family that lived in the same apartment, we knew that there was something there. And so we named it Soledad. That's Spanish for loneliness, but that was its name. So
Whoa.
that was like, that's what I called it. That was like my friend, Soledad. But up until I was maybe like 7, I was like, oh, this is like my imaginary friend. When I went to school, I would pull out a chair for it, like as if it's sitting with me.
Yeah, so that's more than imaginary friend. That's somebody that's real.
Yeah.
Soledad was real.
I got to interrupt you. Sorry, this is really trippy, man. So when I was a kid, I remember...
Soledad might be here right now, and Soledad's here. You're welcome,
The Soledad things was tripping me out. When I was a kid, I remember telling my mom that I remember going to a funeral for a lady named Soli. And I remember going to the cemetery and looking for her and the full thing. So when you just said Soli, that's why I said, whoa.
Wow.
You know, that was a trip, man.
Yeah, so I've heard recently, too, there's been a couple of stories. There was one where an 8-9-year-old kid explained how to fly a fighter jet.
Yeah.
Right? Remember that? I don't know if you heard about that, but he explained it down to the detail to where they actually brought him to the airport, and they showed him, and he was actually able to fly the fighter jet. Anyway, he was he flew the World War II or something like that, and he had been reincarnated into a small child, and this kid knew everything about the plane, where they had flown. But the most interesting one was the recent one where a little boy went to his parents and he said that he knew he was murdered in his previous life and was in England and explained everything to them. And then they flew over to England and he said, I know exactly where the body's buried and everything. The child went to the woods and they dug up a hole and there was a little skeleton of a little boy.
Yeah, man.
And then they walked up to the front door, knocked on the door. The old man answered and turned white as a ghost, and he gave himself up. And he's in jail now. But that other little boy knew everything about it. So, I mean, I sometimes, I meditate for 5-10 minutes in the morning. My brain starts zooming after that. But I really want to be part of this. I want to learn more. I want to meet Soledad. You know the person at the Big Yellow House? Remember?
Right. Rod Latham.
Rod Latham,
Yeah.
What was the kid's name? Sergio or somebody like that? There's supposed to be the Big Yellow House is a restaurant or used to be in Summerlin, and it was haunted. Mm-hmm. And there was a person, Rod Latham. We know he's a very, very, very top shelf actor,
very
director.
respected guy here in town. Yeah,
and he's he knows the guy. He knows the kid. I don't know if he still talks to him or not, but he absolutely saw the entity or something like that.
Yeah.
But I've never known one to be, some people say, oh, you got to be careful because, you don't want any demonic or whatever the word is.
Some bad juju or whatever.
I've never had anything bad. I've only had good.
So do you see Soledad, or is it more of like you feel type thing?
It's more of a feeling. It's kind of like if you're sitting in a room, I know you're sitting here, I know you're sitting there.
Sure.
It's kind of like that feeling of, there's something there, but you don't necessarily see,
Yeah, not good,
feeling.
bad, or indifferent, just there, right?
Did he speak to you telepathically, or did you get feelings of when he would enter the room or anything?
I think it's just feelings. there wouldn't really be like something they would say. Maybe when I was really, really young, they would talk to me, but I don't remember that.
You know, they say after the first 3 or 4 years, things start to dissipate a little bit. You know, you're not as attached, I should say, to a previous life. There's another friend I had who's one of the smartest people I've ever met. She told me, I want to tell you a story one time if we're ever in a situation where I can tell you. Anyway, we were at a bar one time and we were off on a work seminar thing, and she told me that she was up in the mountains here, and she had come home. She lived up in Montecito, and she came home for a visit, and she went up hiking with her dog, and she saw this big metallic thing, and she thought it was they built a water tower. And she goes, I remember, I was so mad. I'm like, how can they do that to this beautiful, beautiful area? Sure. And all of a sudden the dog started barking, and he ran down the hill. And she looked up, and they were speaking to her, and they said, but telepathically, and they asked her to, hey, it's okay, we're friendly. Would you like to come up? Would you like to come in? I'm like, did you go? And she goes, man, I ran. I said, no, thank you.
Would you have gone?
You know what? I've thought about that since my mom passed away a little while ago, 6-7 years ago. I never would have, but right now, man, if you're listening, Soledad or any of the other people, I'm there. You let me know. I will go with you. You know, there's times where you go to sleep and you wake up 10 hours later, but it feels like you've only slept for 10 minutes. I mean, I know there's stuff happening. I just don't know what it is, and I want to learn more. And I'm totally good with that. I would love to go wake up into 1,000 years in the future.
So you want to go beyond where Captain Kirk went today.
I want to go much further than Jeff Bezos ever.
You want to go to 7-Eleven on Mars.
I want to check out Grimes' new pad 1,000 years from now.
Yeah.
Up on Mars. Either that or I want to go 100 years ago. I would love to go back to England, 1850s, 1860s.
Hey, they had a kid recently. You know, you talk about that reincarnation stuff. A kid in Russia. The kid was able to like lift his head at like 5 days old or something, and all this stuff. And supposedly he says he came from Mars, and he's a Martian from years and years ago, and they're still there and living underground. And
think of all the kids that say, "Mom, this is real," and they just say, "Oh, go play with your imaginary kid," like something like that. But you had parents that kind of understood you, right? And they didn't dismiss it.
In a way, I mean,
didn't you say you got snacks for your friend? Remember?
Yeah. So I would go up to my mom and say, "Oh, can I have a snack?" And she gives me like a yogurt, and I'm like, "Can I have one for my friend?" And she's like, "What friend?" I'm like, "Oh, the friend I'm playing with." And she's like, "Okay," like just giving me an extra snack.
But even if she didn't believe it, for her to give you that extra snack, that is a cool mom. That's neat.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we all kind of knew there was something there, but...
Yeah.
But how many times has that happened? And, you know, we just dismiss it as being a 3-year-old kid or a 2-year-old kid. And then, as you say, you know, that kind of dissipates as you get older.
Well, I think children are so in tune with everything, especially... Now, this is a story. So... My brother's a veterinarian. He's a very affluent man. He has a very tight little close family, and they're all doing quite well. But when one of the girls was 3 years old, she came, and this just blew all of us away. She came up to him and she said, "Dad, why did you kill me and throw me in the dumpster?" Whoa. Yeah, and first of all, we didn't even know how would a 3-year-old know what a dumpster was. My brother said, "What are you talking about?" And she kind of described this whole event that took place, and then somebody said that, yeah, they know what happened to them in the previous life. So I'm like, "Blair, do you want to say anything to the rest of the family? You want to tell us anything?" And he obviously didn't know what was going on, but...
And that was the last Thanksgiving you were invited to.
You know, I haven't seen it. I don't know what happened. I don't know what was true, what was not true, but she was very to the point and said, this is what happened. So, yeah, who knows, man?
Who knows, man? It could just be a little turn of the radio dial.
One click,
know?
And I want that. Don't you want that? You feel like you want to? Do you want to see that? Do you want to see another dimension?
Hopefully.
Do you want to see another dimension?
Yeah.
You want to meet Soledad?
Maybe.
Yeah, I like that stuff. I don't believe in bad. I don't think they're going to do anything bad. I think they're here to help us.
No, I mean, there's definitely some of the whole energy thing. Recently, I got into horses, right? They say a horse knows exactly who you are the second he comes up to you, or she, or whatever, right? So, right the second they know. So, I mean, obviously, there's got to be something to that. You know, I
went up to the stables up here years ago, and the guy said, how much, training have you had? And I practically grew up on a ranch. I'd never even I've been on a plastic one out in Santa Cruz Market or something like that.
You've watched a rodeo.
Yeah,
right?
But he brings out Black Beauty. This thing comes, I'm like, holy. And so as soon as I get on the thing, the horse looks at me and he kicks me up like that and then and pulls a wheelie and I go flying off and it took off and that was the last time I ever told them that I grew up on a ranch.
Hey, well,
they do know their stuff.
Yeah. You might have killed him and thrown him in a dumpster.
No,
Past life.
I didn't. I think I had it. I have a couple very strong feelings. Like when I was a kid, I had a Boston accent.
All right.
All the kids at school and the teachers would say, you're from Boston, obviously. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And I'm the only one that spoke that way in my family. And I had a feeling that I'm from Boston, the Boston area, like in the Civil War time. And my great grandfather was in the Civil War, and I swear that I had something to do with that.
Yeah.
He served in the Civil War on the Confederate side. I have a half Yankee, half Confederate, and after he served his first tour, I mean, that's such a heinous war. It's one of the nastiest wars ever. So much suffering. There was no place to work, so he signed up for another tour. Believe that. So after that was over, the war ended, and he had to walk from, I think it was Virginia, back to South Carolina.
Walk?
Walk. That's how they got around back then. But I think I'm from back east, Boston, blueberry skiing up and that's just it's strange.
Sure.
I feel, and from England. I know I'm from there. I mean, I know that I've had lives there. I just want. I pray and I ask, and prayer. That's pretty pure. My mom taught me to pray, and there's another time when I was a kid. I was in 5th grade, and everybody was talking about so-and-so is going to beat up Ben Ferguson. And I'm like, oh, this is not going to be good. So everybody came out after lunch, and I was sitting there next to the guy, and the whole school's watching, and I'm right next to the guy. The big fight's about to happen, and I say, what do I do? And the voice came, hold both his hands, just like that. So I grabbed his hands, and I held them, just like that. And after about 5 minutes, everybody started walking inside, and after they had all cleared, I let go, and the guy turned around and went inside.
See, you cut right to the solution, man.
Yeah, and
he can't hit you. That's a good point.
Yeah, but it told me to do that and it said quickly, grab his hands because something was about to happen. But I want to learn more, man. I want to know. I want to know about. I like meeting people like you and hearing these stories because they are real. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, don't believe any of that stuff. Like now that everybody has a phone, everybody has a camera, we're starting to see crazy UFO stuff, and it's you can't really dismiss that.
Yeah, I mean, you hear all these stories about like old reporters not being able to report on this stuff. I mean, they had like all these phenomena over the White House and all this stuff, and it was ending up in newspapers.
I think they were fearful about.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're worried about everybody just going,
Yeah.
I don't want to pay my taxes anymore.
In the 50s and the 60s, you're worried about the government shutting you up and,
sure.
Stuff like that. Let me tell a quick story about Kurt Russell. Everybody, do you know who Kurt Russell is? You know who Goldie Hawn, they're old movie stars. They're not old, but they're 70s, 80s movie stars. So Kurt Russell, everybody likes Kurt Russell. Even the people that don't like him like him.
Even the people that don't know him.
Even the people that don't like it. Soledad likes him. Everybody likes him.
Everybody likes him.
So he has a story. Recently he was on Jimmy Kimmel, and Jimmy Kimmel didn't get the crux of the story, which was interesting enough, but Jimmy Kimmel has a place in Hollywood, and I'm here in my living room, so go Jimmy.
But I'm here with you, so
right.
I'm very grateful.
Really cool show. So anyway, so he said that he back 10, 15 years ago, he took flying lessons, and his kid, Kurt Russell's kid, said, hey, Dad, can you fly me to Phoenix? And he said, sure, come on. So they fly to Phoenix, and as they're, what do you call it, descending or whatever?
Sure.
They see 9 or 10 orbs of light over the airport. And he calls into the tower, and he says, are you seeing this? And they said, no. So anyway, they land, and they ended up coming back home. And about 10 years later, okay, so first of all, if you saw something like that, you would go home and tell everybody, right? You'd tell Goldie, especially Goldie. I mean, you would tell everybody. Well, here's the thing. They came back, they landed. Kurt comes walking in the living room 10 years later. Goldie's in the living room watching TV, and it's a UFO special, and they're showing the lights over Phoenix. And he goes, I was there. I saw that. But the irony isn't, that he saw that. The irony was that he had forgotten about it. And she's like, why didn't you tell me that? He goes, I don't know. And then they got the kid, and they said, do you remember this? And he goes, oh, God, yeah, I do remember it. But the trick is something made them forget about it.
Sure.
So what else are we doing and seeing that we don't remember?
Well, it's like the whole deja vu thing. I mean, you guys believe in deja vu?
Well, yeah, I believe that the dream thing is, deja vu. I think deja vu is from past lives.
Yeah, I mean, but sometimes I feel like you almost know what's going to happen next sometimes. Like there's dreams, right? Like you dream something and you go, whoa, that was awfully familiar.
That, and I think, like the episode that I wrote, how this is all already planned out, which is interesting, and I don't know enough to really say more about it, but it's like somebody knows what's going to happen next week. Everything's already planned out for us. We're just kind of reliving it. Somebody mentioned that we've already lived this life and we're reliving it or something. That's a little too heavy for me, but
Yeah, I remember one time you trying to explain like time, and how we think of it as being linear, and that blew my mind.
Yeah.
And now 2 years later, I think I'm finally kind of grasping that. But
well, time is a trip.
Yeah.
Time is just what we make it.
yeah, it's a
Time
unit of
really-
measurement, right?
It doesn't exist. So that's when, if you can wrap your head around that, then you can have. Some people say that the past or the future, it's all running, concurrently with right now. And that'll make you fall off your chair. But the one thing that changed my life was when somebody said, think about this. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And that's pretty heavy, because that means there's so much more out there. And if you just have a willingness to accept other people and their stories, and I love it, man. I want to get out of my own way and understand this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. How much more time do we have, Oscar?
You have about 10 minutes.
Okay, so we mentioned a couple stories. You told me about your childhood friend, but wasn't so. There was Soledad, but wasn't there some a bad feeling in one of the houses, kind of like a haunted, scary type thing?
Well, for that apartment, I feel like Soledad followed me all throughout my
Soledad, we think is
childhood.
okay. We like
Yeah.
Soledad. Yeah.
So I'm not sure if maybe there were multiple entities, because my mom told me she didn't have the best feeling about it, because
Does your mom? Does she believe in Soledad? Does she believe in the haunted house, or does she just?
she does.
Yeah.
Sometimes, because she's very Catholic, so she doesn't want to believe in it, but she
Right.
knows there's something. There's so many things that happen she can't explain. So there was one time that she told me it was me, my mom, and my aunt, and we were in the living room, and I was sick. I guess I had like a stomach bug or something, and they were gonna do a limpia, which is like
A cleanse, right?
a cleanse, yeah. And
Olympia means clean. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
and we use like an egg. It's a little I don't know if you've heard of it, that they cleanse you with like an egg, but that's also a way to know if there's bad energy around you.
They crack the egg and do something with it. Yeah. Yeah, I have heard that.
And so they were getting ready to do that, preparing the things, and my mom goes to the store, and then she comes back, and she said that one of my pictures was upside down, and the egg wasn't where she placed it. It was like on the floor, but it wasn't cracked. And so like there was something like moving things, and for some reason I was maybe because I was the youngest one there. I was like 2 or 3, so I was more vulnerable. I don't know, but definitely I was like a target for whatever was there.
Yeah, but nothing bad happened. Maybe it was just a sign of somebody saying, "Hey, man, we're here, and we're gonna flip the." Did it scare her?
Yeah.
I guess it would scare her. I mean,
Yeah, I think I'd be a little.
I still want to think
put off.
everybody's the entities are friendly. I don't want to think that somebody's gonna try to.
But
do
I think it's
something bad to you.
no different than the guy you bump into at 7-Eleven. I mean, some guys are nicer than others.
My dad was a pathologist, and he was doing an autopsy one time, and he said, "You want to come in and watch?" I'm like, "No, man." He goes, "Listen, it's not the dead ones you need to worry about. It's the ones that are alive." I'm
Your dad's got a point.
My brothers can watch that. I'm good. I'm going to go play the organ. And that's
Sure.
what I did. I played the organ out front. But yeah, whether they're dead or alive, I just stick around the living ones. But that's
Wait,
interesting.
you're flip flopping back and forth here.
I don't care. I can flip flop. So a friend of mine, a couple that they're probably in their 80s. I grew up in Seattle, Washington, and I still talk with them like once a week. She mentioned they live in a beautiful house, Capitol Hill, have everything in the world, and she says all the time, though she can't find something, a voice comes in and tells her. She just said recently she was giving somebody a book on speaking without language, like speaking telepathically. The irony there is that's what the book is, but she couldn't remember where it was. And this voice said, "Go downstairs in the little bedroom on top of the bookcase, or someplace that she never would have looked." And she said, "No way." And she went down there, and there it was. I mean, I know that I'm being helped when I lose something, I can't find it, and all of a sudden something dawns on me, and I know that somebody is helping me. And so go in this room and look there, and boom, there it is.
We give ourselves way too much credit, man. The brain's a trippy thing. I mean, think about it. It's like the OG iCloud, right? It's every memory you've ever had, right? So, I mean, But what says you can't put memories into it?
So this is when I think of a brand new baby. I think of as a brand new computer. You know, it has like solitaire and a few things, and that would equate to maybe a baby crying when he was hungry. So it has a few different apps already installed.
Sure.
But as you're teaching the baby, that's why it's so important when you're raising a child. Because when you're our age, we already have all our memories of what reality is from what was taught to us when we were kids.
Yeah, our perception, right?
So when you're instilling those little apps in your child's brain, I mean, you remember that because that's you're building a computer, and you don't want to put a virus in there. You want to put good things in there. I mean, like when I live in a happy land. I live in Benville, population 1, and my brother, I sit down with him, and he wants to talk about Afghanistan. He wants to talk about suffering and all that, and I just can't do it, man. And he said, it must be nice to live in your world, and I said, it really is, because I think about fun things that I did as a kid, things, holidays, things that my mom made special for us, like Halloween, like Thanksgiving, like this time of year right now is just absolutely my very favorite. That's what I like to think about. I don't want to, and I know there's people that are suffering elsewhere, but I don't feel bad that I don't feel bad. I'm going to feel good. I want to go get a pumpkin muffin and smile. I want to have fun. You like the holidays?
Yeah, Halloween is my favorite.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So what is it? The Dia de los Muertos?
Dia de los Muertos.
Dia de los Muertos. That's the day after?
That's the day after, and the 2nd, I think, November.
I used to be scared of cemeteries. Pretty scared of cemeteries. But since my mom passed away, I go into cemeteries in different towns. I'll just find a cemetery and go in it, and it's such a peaceful feeling.
Yeah.
It's nice. And I have a Tesla. The only reason to bring that up is they say when you're driving a Tesla, drive it through a cemetery, and on the screen you might see something.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm like, come on.
Have you done it?
I did. An old girlfriend of mine came over and said, let's go to the cemetery. And I'm like, yeah, all right, I'll go to the cemetery. And I swear to God, this is true. We're driving, and a bike drives by. There is nobody on a bike. And so when I looked it up on YouTube, and somebody else had one and saw the same thing, and there were bikes.
Whoa.
So I don't know what that means.
You didn't get the 3 guys from the haunted house at Disneyland or anything like that?
I saw a guy on a bike.
Hey, man, that's enough for
3
me.
times.
I got it.
The guy was on a bike. Yeah, no, that was interesting. I don't know how true that is, but I'm okay with the cemeteries. I like going to old cemeteries. I like going to the one in Santa Barbara. There's some early 1800s stones, and I remember when I was a kid, I went to one in Olympia, Washington, 1600s. It was like an Indian burial ground. It was really something.
You ever get down and check out any like the Civil War cemeteries?
Yeah, my mom drove us across the United States when we were kids, and my brother was a big Civil War guy, and we went to all the Civil War stuff.
Yeah, they say there's still a lot of activity down there.
But if you read about it, think about the suffering, man. It's just, I mean, you get hit in the head with a rock, basically, and you didn't die for about 3 days.
Yeah. Or you got shot in the leg and they hacksawed it off, It's even better.
Yeah, but they gave you something to bite on, so it wasn't all that bad.
Here, bite down on this, son.
Yeah, listen, we're about 1 minute and we're about out of time. I thank you very much for coming out. I'm very happy to meet you and Soledad, and I hope to maybe see Soledad one day.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes, and maybe you'll come back if you have more Soledad stories.
Sure.
That's right, and happy Halloween to everybody out there. And John, thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody, I'm Ben Ferguson. Thank you for watching. We'll see you soon.